I am so sorry for getting this video up so late, but the truth is it took me a while to get around to finally finishing this season. I don't know, me and TV, we don't really have that great of a relationship. But for the sake of this show getting a season 3, which I absolutely want to happen, here's my video on season 2. Cloak Dagger Season 2. Spoiler warning, I'm gonna talk about the season with spoilers, so you've been warned. So yes, Season 2 of Marvel's Cloak Dagger on Freeform wrapped up a couple weeks ago. I literally just finished watching it like a couple hours ago. And I actually thought it was a pretty cool season. Continuing from where Season 1 left off, Tyrone Johnson has been falsely accused of murdering Connors since, what happened in the Season 1 finale. Tandy Bowen is still living her life. She and Tyrone, they hang out together, but Tyrone does spend the first few episodes pretty much hiding from everyone he loves because he was falsely accused. One of the biggest things about this season is, of course, Detective Bridget O'Reilly. At the end of Season 1, she was shot by Connors and she fell into the water and that pipe with the Roxxon energy went off. What that little energy outburst ended up doing was it ended up literally splitting her into two different people. I mean, looks-wise they're identical, but personality-wise they are polar opposites. You got the docile side, Bridget, who is more or less the helpful one, and then you have the aggressive one, who actually does end up going by the name Mayhem, easily identifiable by her green nails. And at the beginning of the season, she's actually going around and using her razor-sharp nails to slit guys' throats. It's actually pretty badass. She's something of a villain. It's kind of a metaphor for we all have that light and dark inside of us, and there are points when docile Bridget has to go up against aggressive Mayhem. She has to go up against her more aggressive self. There's a point where she actually has a gun pointed at her and Mayhem's like, go ahead, shoot if you have the guts. And Bridget just can't pull herself to do it. Those scenes where the two of them are talking face to face, I thought they were pretty well written. Cause Mayhem was like a one-woman army. She's like, just stay out of my way. I'm just gonna go get the job done by myself. I don't need anyone's permission. But her methods are wrong. This is pretty much the first half of the season, is dealing with Bridget and Mayhem. Meanwhile, it's slowly building up what the season is really all about, which is, the girl sex trafficking thing and the drug crime syndicates and Andre Deshane and Leah. Actually, both of these characters, when you first meet them in the show, you're like, these are just good people. Andre's really cool. He's showing Tandy around this one neighborhood. He's like, yeah, the police aren't going after these people. No one cares about us. This is America, Tandy. I was like, shit, all right, it's going for the statement. But, a show like this has the right to do that. Or at least it does in my eyes. And Leah runs this, anonymous group for people who have been through trauma. And she seems really good too. And she has a really, really pretty face. Just saying. But like the last season, this season is really slow to start, which I didn't think it would be. Since, season 1 is usually the origin season in shows like this. All right, we find out how they get their powers, how they come together, and how they, form a team. In season 2, we can just hit the ground running, right? Well, in a way it does, and in a way it doesn't. Aubrey Joseph and Olivia Holt, their chemistry is on point. They are a great team, and I don't think anyone can deny that at this point. And there is some action here and there in the first half of the season. Like when Dagger is first trying to find and stop Mayhem in this strip club, she finds her and then she throws a dagger at her and Mayhem just catches it. She's like, you're gonna have to do better than that. I was like, oh shit. But really, other than that, it's a lot of talking and build-up, which does pay off in the second half of this season, which is a sneaky trick they pull on us. They did the same thing last season, but it worked even better this season because I already care about the characters. So what they're going through with the crime syndicates and the sex trafficking, I paid enough attention to it so that at the end of the season, it really all paid off. Where all the characters are emotionally, it does have to do with all this stuff. But at the middle point of this season, I felt it kind of took a dip, because that's where it was revealed that Leah and Andre, they're actually douches. And Andre is actually the villain of the season. Because they end up kidnapping Tandy, and so there's this episode where she kind of experiences what-if versions of her life. To me, I just saw that episode as a filler episode. Yeah, sure, these fantasies can be cool, but can we get back to, the story? Why is Tandy being kidnapped? What the hell's going on here? But the flip side of that is that it really does delve into Tandy's psyche. It's really good character development for her. She goes through a great story arc this season. She finds out who her true friends are, how to deal with her childhood trauma. It's good stuff. And let's talk about the villain of the story here, Andre Deshane. I thought he was a really cool villain. I like his backstory. He was a working blues musician who played the trumpet, but he was suffering from these migraines that ultimately ended his career. But then he was affected by the same accident that gave Tyrone and Tandy their powers back in the day. And he himself was given a new ability. Basically, what he could do is he, upon contact, could essentially manipulate people's emotions. And I like how it's represented. He is inside their heads in the form of this kind of metaphysical record store. And I like how records were kind of a motif this season. And so he's in this record store and he's going through these records, which ultimately are people's memories. So he can bring forth a repressed memory and put it in this record player, and all of a sudden this person he's affecting is emotionally compromised. I thought that was really cool. I don't know, it was something I'd never seen before in any form of media. So bringing forth this repressed pain in his victims it represses his own pain. It makes him feel better. It's kind of a cycle, I guess, of sorts. It's cool. It did make him kind of a sympathetic villain because, shit, his career, he was really passionate about what he did, you could tell. Then his life just took a downward turn. So he kidnaps Tandy Bowen, and so Tandy gets to see Andre's like sex trafficking ring. He has all these girls in his motel and none of them want to leave because he's emotionally manipulating them. It's hard to watch, I'm not gonna lie. But then the last few episodes, yeah, that's where the action gets badass. So Tyrone shows up to rescue Tandy, but then he ends up just collapsing and fainting. This dark dimension that we saw Connors get sucked into in the season 1 finale, it plays a big role this season, because we actually go in there quite a few times. And really, this dark dimension, it has like few different sets of rules. I'm still not entirely certain about how it works. Like for some people, it's where they deal with their own fears, like Connors, who came back from the dark dimension in this season and he's just filled with regret. I'll touch on him more later. But I think it's also where Andre Duchesne had his metaphysical record store. Like it looked like it was part of this dark dimension at a few points this season. Like Mayhem was in there and she was smashing all the records and that's what gave the girls back their hope and that's how they got out of there. That one girl, Dell, was like, you were lying to me, you said my parents abandoned me. But when Tyrone just collapses, so Tandy has to go in there with Bridget to help him out. I actually really love this scene, because that one Loa skull-faced dude who looks like he's from Princess and the Frog, he was all like, Tyrone's playing my game, you gotta play by my rules. And so they're playing this arcade machine, and I really love this, because that's the beginning of like a really cool action scene. Because it kind of parallels like between this video game 8-bit thing and real life, like they're in the streets and they're just kicking the shit out of all these generic bad guys. I thought it was really cool, because first of all, they actually look like legit Cloak and Dagger, which is awesome. And secondly, they both got some new tricks up their sleeves. Like Dagger can now make these balls of light like Kamehameha style and just set them off like a flashbang. And Tyrone has really mastered his cloak powers. Like in episode 9 when he was threatening those drug lords, he was just teleporting all over the place. It was awesome. He was like Batman, but better. Yes, I did say that. Batman moves like a shadow. Cloak is a shadow. Badass. Evita is also explored deeper in this season. Not in the way I thought she would be. I do wish I cared about it a little more, but it is still pretty kind of tragic. She did want a relationship with Tyrone, let's be honest. But then her aunt, you know, the super wise voodoo lady, she was killed by Andre. That sucked. I loved her aunt. She was a great character. And this is also where some weirder elements start to come into play that are more comic booky than the last season showcased. Because now Tyrone and Tandy have to go confront Andre in this like other dimension, but in order to get there, Evita has to open this like portal, you know, through Tyrone's cloak. Oh wait, am I getting that wrong? Yeah, I am getting that wrong. That was when Tandy had to go rescue Tyrone in episode 8 with the video game. Evita essentially sacrificed her potential relationship with Tyrone to save him, because her aunt in like ghost form or whatever, she's like, you now have to take my place as a mambo, which I guess is a voodoo thing. You have to marry Aloha, which is like a voodoo god. You have to commit yourself to a voodoo god, essentially, which means no more relationships with human beings, I guess. That sucked for Evita. I mean, I felt for her, I really did, but she wanted to save Tyrone, so she went through with it. And then Tyrone and Tandy had to go back into the dimension to fight Andre. This is the season finale, and it is certainly interesting to say the least, because it's really both Tyrone and Tandy coming to terms with their fears. Like Tyrone is fighting this perfect version of himself, Tandy is fighting this illusion of her father, making light swords. That's a new ability for her. That was really cool. And then at the very end, this is awesome. Andre's facing Tyrone and he was like, looks like your girl disappeared. You're all out of tricks. Tyrone's like, almost. We got one more. And then they just pull off this combo where Dagger like jumps through Cloak. She's got her light sword. I was like, combo breaker. I love that. Like the light and dark combo, and then she just thrusts her sword right through his chest. So I was like, okay. They straight up killed him, which, yeah, I mean, he was about to ascend into being like a god. He had to be stopped, therefore he had to be killed. But of course, these two kids, they're kids still, you know, Cloak and Dagger, they're kids. They just killed someone. They can't stay in New Orleans anymore. Bridget and Mayhem have come to terms with each other. They have recombined back into one person, although it really looks like Mayhem is just completely taken over. I'm curious where that's gonna go if there is a next season. Oh, and before I forget, I gotta talk about Connors. I did say I would get to him. So yeah, he's just full of regrets because he was trapped in that dark dimension for 8 months. So he comes back and he's like, I'm so sorry, I'll tell you everything. But Adina Johnson, who is Tyrone's mother, she's just filled with so much hatred. She had him tied up to a chair and everything, and she was like, let's see if your pleas for mercy are enough to convince me not to end your life. I was like, holy shit, she could actually do it. And sure enough, she does, which isn't good, but I give the show props for going there. She was like, no, you know what? You killed one of my sons, you made a victim out of the other. Bam, bam, you're dead. Where's that story arc gonna go? I wanna know. But the season ends with Tyrone and Tandy finally holding hands on the bus. They're leaving New Orleans. I feel like now they are truly Cloak and Dagger. They're gonna go try to be heroes somewhere else, which is the main reason why I want the show to be renewed for a season 3. Because now we actually are gonna have Cloak and Dagger being in a romantic relationship, or at least it feels like it seems that way. They're holding hands on the bus, you know, I mean, everyone wants to see them kissed. I want to see them kiss. Shit. Evita's out of the equation. Like, this season did leave some doors open. I want to see where Bridget O'Reilly's story goes. I want to see where Adina Johnson's story goes. I'm wondering where Tyrone and Tandy are going. Season 3 of Cloak and Dagger has not been confirmed yet. I really want it to be confirmed. Please, pretty please, Freeform. Because I do care about these characters, you know. I want to see how the repercussions of this season affect them. And I want to see more of that chemistry between Aubrey Joseph and Olivia Holt. Because it's really, really good. The music in this season was also pretty good. I don't know if I like this soundtrack as much as I like season 1's soundtrack, but there are a few good songs songs on here. I think it was the first episode that had the song Run For Your Life. It was either the first or second episode. It was earlier on in the season. And Aubrey Joseph himself did a song called Numb, which is also on the soundtrack album. But I don't know, as far as jams go, I think I like the first season soundtrack better. But this is still some pretty good music. So in the end, I still don't regret watching Cloak and Dagger. If this is the end of the show, then that would be a huge bummer. But it was a good run. But I hope that's not the case. I want the show to be renewed for like a few more seasons. The creator, Joe Pakaski, he said he had like a 7-season plan. I would love to see that come to fruition. 7 seasons of Cloak and Dagger? Shit, I'd love that. Hell, the series could end at that point with them getting married or something. Great writing, great characters, great action. I wish the show had a bigger budget. I will say that, because the visual effects could still use some cleaning up. But the story is really good, and there are some instances of some really good writing in this season. So Cloak and Dagger Season 2, have you watched it? What did you think about it compared to the first season? And are you also hoping for a renewal for Season 3? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.